down their comments. Thank you. Let us now introduce contestant number 4, Ms. Liu Hui K. Nicole. The title of her speech is Universal Suffrage. You now have 3 minutes. You may begin after the bell rings.
Good morning, everyone. Some election system in Hong Kong is flawed because those who elect the chief executive cannot represent the needs of the people in Hong Kong. Perhaps universal suffrage can iron out the wrinkles in the current system. But let's think about this more deeply. What is, after all, the point of getting this system fixed? It's to fix the problems that are there in our current society. For example, look at New Zealand, look at Norway, look at Denmark. They all have universal suffrage. Their people are happy. There's a high standard of living. There's little conflict in the society. It seems great, doesn't it? But there are other factors to consider. Firstly, most of their residents are middle class. Secondly, they have abundant natural resources. And thirdly, their population density is low, unlike Hong Kong, where there are lots of people with diverse needs all crammed together. What we really need to ensure social justice and economic harmony is effective policy making, a social consensus, and for some people to be willing to put aside their own demands. Universal suffrage can assist the society to more easily come to a consensus, but it cannot promise effective policies, and it cannot promise that some people can be willing to make sacrifices. Take, for example, the income disparity, like many of my other finalists have done. Some suggest that one way to solve this would be to increase the basic wage. However, others say this would lead to increased inflation along with it. And then others say more welfare would be better. But then there would be a heavier burden on taxpayers. Surely, development in infrastructure would help and provide job opportunities. But then environmental pollution. Whatever policy is taken, people are bound to object because it cannot benefit them and cannot satisfy their needs. Like what I said around a minute and a half ago, universal suffrage can assist the society to more easily reach a consensus. But we also need effective policies to plan the best way to do it. And we need for a certain minority to be willing to make sacrifices. That's why I believe that universal suffrage alone cannot ensure social justice and economic harmony. It must also come with effective policies and sacrifices on the part of some. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the only way we can solve the problems present in current society. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Mr. Lynch will now ask you a question relating to your speech. The bell will ring and the timekeeper will raise the start. The question has been asked, and you will have 1 minute to respond. Mr. Lynch, please.
Thank you. You mentioned a couple of times in your speech sacrifices were needed by some members of Hong Kong society. Could you say which members and what sacrifices, please?
For example, thank you. For example, in my speech, I have talked about the income disparity, and perhaps development in infrastructure would provide job opportunities for the poorer class, and that way they would be able to have a sustainable income. On the other hand, there are environmental people who are very concerned about the environment, who say that these development in infrastructure, for example, for the railway, would be very detrimental to the environment. And I believe if the society needs to be able for its members to be self-sufficient, that perhaps these environmentalists may have to give up their demands for the time being so that we can perhaps solve the problem of poverty first. Thank you.
Thank you. A second question will now be asked by Mr. McLavin. Again, the bell will ring and the timekeeper will raise the start. Respond only after the question. Thank you. Mr. McLavin, please.
Thank you. Hong Kong has been described as a cultural desert. Do you think that culture doesn't matter to Hong Kong's young people?
Thank you. I think that Hong Kong's culture does matter to young people. For example, in the matter of cultural heritage and perhaps many buildings being demolished, you see people who are on the streets who rally and protest against them, and quite a lot of them, in fact, are young people. Furthermore, intangible culture like Hong Kong's fish balls and other edible things, and also things like songs that are passed down from generation to generation. Young people, they still cherish them, they still keep it, and I believe that it is very important to them because they enjoy it and they immerse themselves in it every day, so it is important to young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Please take a seat.